Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Spiritism Talk series hosted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm very happy to host this live talk by Yuri Castro, who will be talking about the subject Shine Wherever You Are. Let's all give Yuri a very warm welcome. And before he starts his presentation, allow me to introduce him. Yuri Castro is a licensed clinical psychologist specialized in the treatment of severe and persistent mental illness in adolescents and adults. He has been residing in Florida since 2013, is married, and has two sons. Yuri has been involved in Spiritism since an early age and started giving lectures in 2012. He is a volunteer at Conscious Living Spiritist Center in North Miami, Florida. Please take this opportunity to send your questions during this presentation using the chat window. Yuri has reserved time to address your comments and questions once he concludes his talk. Yuri, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to see you. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the topic shine wherever you are. So we're going to be looking at some references from Spiritism, different books, and I always have the book on the top right corner of the slide. So if anybody has any question where that information came from, you can just look there and go and read it for yourself, get the books yourselves. The first thing we're going to be talking today in this lecture about light, about shining, is the darkness. So the idea that I wanted to bring here is that darkness in itself does not exist. It's a concept. It's something that it's immaterial, it's intangible, impalpable. What exists, in fact, is not darkness, is the absence of light. Light as this pulsating energy, this vibration, all of that. That's what it exists. Light exists. Darkness is the absence of that. So by using this logic for us to start to think about these things in a different way, we can see that a lot of the things, the problems we have, a lot of the issues, a lot of the things that are barriers for us are in fact the absence of something else. So if we bring it to a physical perspective, for instance, we can think of hunger as the absence of food and energy. We can think from a mental standpoint, mental health standpoint, that anxiety in itself is the absence of what? Of patience, of faith. Prejudice could be the absence of humility, of tolerance. And hatred is the absence of love. So whenever we're doing these opposite things or whatever it's missing, we start to shift our mindset and see things in a different perspective through different lens. And on an even more subjective level, we can think that darkness can exist in the form of like ignorance, selfishness, pride, and all of that. And it can be externalized. The darkness, the absence of light, can be externalized through actions, through words, through our thoughts that we know are very powerful. They can manipulate our reality and the reality of others, construct, destruct, modify, and all of that. It could be externalized through those things, or it can also, this darkness, this absence of light, could be internalized through existential emptiness, clinical depression, and among other afflictions. So why am I saying these things? Because the first thing I want us to start reflecting upon and thinking about is this idea of darkness being the absence of light, and all these other issues being the absence of something. Because somebody may say, oh, but this is a glass half full sort of situation. But is it really? Because once we know that those issues are the absence of something, we now have the power of knowledge. We now know exactly what is missing and how we can change that. So this idea, I think, is very powerful because it can modify the way we look at things when we're seeing this whole idea of absences. In the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Light, Emmanuel, this is the message 180. Emmanuel, in this book, psychographed by Chico, he says that the anguish of our plane comes from darkness. So the anguish of our plane, in other words, being all these, the darkness, being this idea of the selfishness, the pride, the two scourges of humanity, or at least our current state, and all this externalized darkness, like we spoke about before, all these acts of hatred, of brother killing brother, and all of that, and this internalized darkness with depression, with suicidal rates reaching their peak in centuries, and all of that internalized that darkness. So Emmanuel is saying the anguish of our plane, or our earth, comes from that. Without the shining radiations, is going to say, from our own being, we cannot be seen very easily by the divine messengers who lend aid in the name of the Almighty, nor can we effectively help anyone, whoever that might be. So this here is, in this little paragraph here, little sentence here, he's already saying that without the shining radiations from ourselves, without us shining our own light, there's two things that can happen that are not the results that we want. One, we cannot be seen by these divine messengers that work in the name of the Almighty, all these discarnate spirits that are always there to help us, so we cannot easily be seen by them. Just as we read in the Spiritist literature so many times that somebody discarnate goes to the other plane and they die and everything, but their light is so small and they're surrounded in their darkness, their own darkness, and it's harder for them to get help that way. So that's the number one. The second thing he's saying, nor can we effectively help anyone, whoever that might be. So without our own light, this shining radiations from ourselves, we cannot also help anybody else. We can't even help ourselves, and neither can we help anybody else. So he says, it is indispensable to organize our inner sanctuary and illuminate it so that darkness does not overcome us. So he even says that the small, humble house joyfully illuminated by the sun is a paradise of happiness. This idea that organizing our inner sanctuary and illuminating it so we're not overcome by the darkness, both the internal darkness that may come sometimes over us, or the external darkness by seeing all this anguish from our plane coming from these acts of darkness. So he continues on in the same message. He continues on by saying, it is possible to progress by using other people's light, but without our own, we are in constant danger of stumbling. So we can advance using other people's light. And if we bring this to a more practical level, how many times have we been helped by someone when we were surrounded by the darkness, when we had the light, when the light was absent within us, and we were helped by someone else? So he's saying we can progress using other people's light, but without our own, we are in constant danger of stumbling. We may stumble, we may fall, because what happens if that person moves away? What happens if that person's light somehow is dimmed? We are left in the darkness that we created. Therefore, Emmanuel is going to say, take advantage of the sources of light along the way. Use the wick of goodwill, the oil of service and humility, and kindle your torch for the journey ahead. Thank those who light your way for an hour, for a few days, or for many years, but do not neglect your own lamp. So Emmanuel here, always so good with this idea of using material things to express these higher concepts, right? So he's saying the wick of goodwill, the oil of service. So basically he's talking about all these components that help light come through, we can use them to illuminate. And he's saying, thank those, be thankful, grateful for those who light your way for an hour, a few days, etc., but do not neglect your own light. So we cannot forget to shine our own light wherever we are. And he's going to finish the message by saying this. He says, it is impossible to advance without light. He's not saying it's harder to advance without light, or he's saying it's not so easy. No, he's saying it's impossible. He's very, very emphatic here by using that word, meaning we have to use light to advance morally, spiritually, and we do not neglect our own light. We must shine our own light. And Emmanuel is also going to say that if the lamp illuminates by burning its own oil, if the light bulb shines, consuming the energy provided by the substation, let us offer the instrumentality of our lives to the imperatives of perfection, so that the Lord's teachings reveal themselves through us, illuminating the path of others. So Emmanuel is talking about these things needing some sort of energy to draw from. So the oil, the substation, and we too have our own energy, our own time that we can use to illuminate not only our path, but the path of others. And he's talking about the instrumentality of our lives. Being here, those that are incarnate that are listening to this talk, being here means we have a unique opportunity. We were granted this blessing of the reincarnation to be able to shine our light, to illuminate, to disperse the darkness both within and outside. And he's saying, using the instrumentality of our lives in the name of God, so the teachings of the Almighty can reveal themselves through us, through our actions, through our words, through our thoughts, illuminating the path of others. So this instrumentality is being so pivotal here, so interesting for us to think about, that it is this uniqueness, these unique talents, these unique characteristics, our own unique way of being that we can use to illuminate illuminate the path of ourselves and others. I wanted to bring two, I guess you can say, metaphors for us to understand a little bit more about light and shining and everything. And the first one, I want to say that we are like lighthouses. And let's dive into that a little bit. What is the purpose of a lighthouse? Is to illuminate treacherous waters at night, so that boats can drive safely there. So the boats were not going to be carried out by the storm, or they're not going to be sunk by hitting stone, like rocks jutting from the water and all of that. So the purpose of the lighthouse is to illuminate the path of others. Just like we saw in the previous slide, Emmanuel was saying for us to shine our light to illuminate the path for others. So I like to think that we are like little lighthouses, each one of us, so we can illuminate the path for others, especially in these treacherous waters, especially when these people are going through all these trials and tribulations, that we can illuminate for them. That's another thing, the purpose of the lighthouse, similar to ours. The second thing is that the lighthouse needs a solid base. We don't see the lighthouse just floating about in the water, just purposely, not doing anything there. The lighthouse needs a solid base, needs a solid ground. And just like us, we need a solid ground in order to be able to illuminate. And what is the solid ground? The teachings of Christ, the teachings of the Consoler, all these things that we are learning through talks like this, and trying to enact those things that we learn, put them into practice. So we need that solid base in order for us to stand on, just like the lighthouse. And the third thing is, one is the purpose, which is to illuminate the path for others, or of others even. The second is needing a solid base. The third one is that if the lighthouse is turned off, if its light is not shining, its efficacy is close to null. It's close to zero. Some even say zero. Much like with ourselves, if our lights are turned off, if we're not shining as we were meant to shine, then we're going to be limiting our efficacy while in this plane, while in this life, while in this very unique opportunity that we have. So much like the lighthouse, we need to then turn on our lights shine whatever we are and dissipate the darkness outside. This is from a book called Harvest of Light. Unfortunately, I don't think we have this book in English yet, but this is a message number 60. And it says by Emmanuel, also psychographed by Chico. And he says this: observe around you the night of guilt, the darkness of delinquency, the shadows of obsession, the maze of trials, the furnace of indifference, the shackles of selfishness, the hideouts of ignorance, the fog of anguish, the clouds of suffering, the haze of tears. Again, Emmanuel, so good with the words always, just using these things related to light and darkness, to environment, to contrast them with indifference, anguish, trials, ignorance, all these more psychological reflections, we may say. Take note of the areas of life where the needs of our soul obscure our paths and extend help at understanding, peace, and hope wherever you are. So Emmanuel is saying here for us to extend that, to shed our light, to shine our light wherever we are. He's saying peace and hope. All of these areas that are in the previous paragraph that we can see on the slide there, we can help dissipate the darkness there. Because he's even saying, observe around you. Our plane is still a plane of trial and tribulations. We're moving along to a world of regeneration, but so far, trials and expiations, and he's saying, observe all of that around you, and we can shine our light through that. Even the Christ said, you're the light of the world. And Emmanuel is going to say also something that I think is beautiful. He says, every creature is a source of light, for he or she is also a source of love. We are always a source of light because we have love. We're this spark from God, and we have that love. We have that light to shine. And in this other book, Emmanuel is going to talk about the greatness of small things. He's going to say, do not disregard the small things you can do for the happiness of others. And I underline small things here because oftentimes, I would say more often than not, we don't know whether those things that we do for others are actually small. For us, they may be small. For us, it may take very little for us to do an act of charity, for us to be altruistic, for us to lend a helping hand, a helping ear, to share a word of consolation. For us, may be small, but he's saying do not disregard that. And it's so true because we don't even know how that seed of help that we throw there is how that can sprout and grow and all of that. And it made me think, when I read this, it made me think of the man who was basically, forced to help Jesus carry the cross, Simon. Just a look from Jesus changed that man's life, changed his inner being. A look. So we're talking about small things. There's nothing smaller than a look, And Emmanuel is saying just that. Do not disregard those opportunities. The most fascinating light, this is beautiful that he says, in the firmament, although a spectacle of divine power, in the darkness of the night cannot penetrate an isolated hut, or the isolated hut where a mother's heart pleads for the presence of God and there perform the mission of a candle. The most fascinating star in the firmament, in the universe that we don't know, cannot penetrate the hut of a mother that's helping her child and needs some light, and there perform the mission of a single candle that's going to illuminate that hut, illuminate that shed. And if we compare brightness level of those two things, power perhaps of the brightest star and the small candle, we know which one is stronger. But the thing is, the small things cannot be ignored. As a saying that I heard a long time ago said, one bread in times of scarcity is better than a banquet in times of abundance, or it was something like this. Exactly. So we need to be attentive and not disregard the small things that we can do for others. Even along those same lines, we can see that Emmanuel is going to say that let us remember that the candle lit at night is infinitely more valuable than the gold and diamond chandelier regrettably turned off. The usefulness, the how much that little candle is shining is already way more than that very expensive and beautiful and opulent chandelier that is turned off. And Mother Teresa had this quote, not exactly, I'm not going to quote necessarily the same because I don't remember, but it's something like, we ourselves may feel like the work that we do is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be smaller because of that missing drop, which is so true. It would be less. And we cannot disregard that. We cannot lose that opportunity to shine our light wherever we are, in however form we can shine that light and help ourselves and help others. But if we know this, if somebody may be looking at this and saying, yeah, this is interesting, but I still see a lot of barriers to do shining my own light, so why do we hesitate? I put here, why do we hesitate if we then know how important our light is, if we're looking at all these messages and learning through these teachings that it's important to shine our light? Why do we hesitate? Why do we not shine our light then, wherever we are? The answer is plentiful, I guess. Selfishness, fear of failure, laziness, tiredness, whatever we may. Each one of you is probably going to think of a reason why, and it's probably correct. And even the desire, if we think about it, to keep that light, that energy, that time, and everything that we have for ourselves, our talents for ourselves, because it takes effort to kindle and maintain our flame so we can shine wherever we are. So if we look at fear and hesitation, for instance, in the way, the truth, and the life, Emmanuel says, do not freeze in front of the sublime spectacle the world offers you every day. So he's urging us, do not freeze, because every day is a new beginning. Every day is a new opportunity that we have to improve ourselves and others through the shining of our lights. And on the message 177 of the same book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life, it's called Conventional Opinions. Emmanuel is going to say that, he's going to say this: do not become excessively attached to the crowd's judgments. Habit and conventionalism exert a great power over it. So this is a strong message, because he's saying that habits and conventionalism can exert a great power over us, meaning the crowd's going to judge us, people are going to judge us, and we may become hesitant to shine our own light. And Emmanuel is going to give a few examples in this message. He's going to say, if you tolerate offenses with love, you are called a coward. If you truly forgive someone, you are considered a fool. If you suffer with patience, you are worthless. If you dislike common pleasures, you are declared to be abnormal. So all these things that, if we think about our the crowd's judgments, tolerating offenses with love, truly forgiving someone, suffering with patience and resignation, disliking all these common pleasures that the world has to offer, the material world has to offer, if we cede to this pull, we're not gonna be able to shine our light properly as we're meant to do, as we even set out to do before we reincarnate, through the use of our talents, our work, and everything else. So the crowd's judgments is then an obstacle to shining our own light. And if we go to The Living Spring, another book psychographed by Chico, a book of messages written by Emmanuel, he's going to say that, and this is the message 105, you are the light. He says, the mission of light is to illuminate roads, scatter darkness, and save lives. A mission that is invariably carried out at the cost of the fuel that feeds it. Therefore, if we are to grasp Christ's lesson, we are interested in following him, then we must be willing to donate our energies to the ongoing activity of the good, so that the good news may shine on the pathway of redemption for all. Emmanuel here is said, he even says the candle flame burns the liquefied wax of the wick. The electric light consumes power from the substation, which is similar to a message we saw before from the way, the truth, and the life. This idea of we also needing this fuel, we also needing to use our instrumentality. But if we think about it, our fuel from most basic standpoint is love. If we have love behind everything that we do, if we truly love every moment, if we can really practice that love outwardly, we're going to have that fuel. That's going to fuel us to, like we were seeing before, to suffer with resignation, sorry, and with patience, to be able to overcome all these obstacles that are placed in front of us, because we are still in the process in our spiritual evolution where we are faced with these obstacles that sometimes feel like unsurmountable to us. They feel like these mountains we cannot climb and cross. But Emmanuel is saying here, donating our energies to the ongoing activity of the good, so the good news may shine on the pathway of redemption for all. So he's again inviting us, urging us to follow the teachings of Christ and not be lost in this sea of obstacles that we have almost every day in this plane of existence. And the second analogy I wanted to bring here, subjectively speaking, or analogy, metaphor, whatever, is that when I was doing this study here to present, I was thinking of these lights. And one thing that I thought of was these bugs, these insects that are drawn to light. Anybody who lives outside or has ever lived outside has seen those, especially closer to like woods and things like that, mountains, etc. These bugs that are attracted to light, and I was curious, why are they attracted to light? Well, they go to light because it's warm, and second, they go to the lamp there because they're trying to be in a place where they can see their predators, because if it's in the complete darkness, they may die from the predators. But the interesting thing about this is as they go through to that light, these insects, they are actually dazed. They are attracted to that, but they actually become dazed and disoriented when they go to this artificial light. And I kept thinking, are we like that sometimes as humans? Aren't we attracted to these lights, these artificial lights, these things that will pass? Money, fame, titles, physical beauty, whatever that may be. Aren't we sometimes attracted to these things, just like these little insects? But then the thing is, what happens when we go to these lights? We get disoriented. We get tempted by these things, but we get, just like the bugs, we get disoriented because our purpose here is not to pursue these treasures, like Jesus said, that thieves can steal or get rust. We get disoriented by them, just like the insects. And also, what happens if the light is turned off? These insects, they don't have their light, these moths, etc. If the lights turn off, they are in complete darkness and they are disoriented. So I guess my analogy here, my metaphor, is for us to think about ourselves and use this metaphor to be more like fireflies. They have their own light. They even, albeit small, they have their own light. And there's even this little story, this little fable, I guess, story that I was reading that said that the moon, the full moon, all bright and beautiful, was talking to the firefly. And the moon was saying, look at my light. I'm so bright. I'm so powerful compared to your light. My light is illuminates so much more. I can illuminate everything, everywhere, etc. And the firefly said, yeah, you're right. Your light is very bright. It's way brighter than mine. But my light is my own. That's what the firefly said. So let's think about it. The small things that Emmanuel was talking about before. We have our own light. We're like these fireflies. We're not like these moths. We're like the fireflies because we do have our own light. No matter if we're looking at some artificial light, just like the moon, which is not artificial, but the light is not, it's not the moon's. When we're looking at that, we may sometimes be dazed, and we may be taken aback, stupefied even by the brightness of those lights. But the thing is, our light is our own, just like the fireflies. No matter how small, we can illuminate our own path. We can shine whatever we are and illuminate the path of others as well. In the book, I don't think we have this book in English as well. It's a book of messages called The Book of Hope by Chico and Emmanuel. There's a few quotes here, a few ideas that convey that no one is useless. Is the name of it's the title of the message. It says, do not wait for apparent greatness to make yourself useful. Mission equals incumbents, and no one exists by chance. We have chosen to be here. We have been granted this opportunity, and we're not here by chance. And he's saying here, to fulfill our mission, we do not need a managerial position, a brilliant platform, or immense wealth. Let us simply value discipline in our own place with the pleasure of serving. So he's basically saying we don't need this sort of power to be through money, through fame, through job, through acknowledgments, whatever that may be, titles. We don't need that to make ourselves useful, to make ourselves missionaries of God, of Christ. We don't need that. He's saying, let us simply value discipline in our own place with the pleasure of serving, with this altruistic intention behind our actions, with charity. Without charity, there's no salvation we have in the gospel according to Spiritism. And he's saying, do not wait for apparent greatness to make yourself useful, because oftentimes we may think, oh yeah, if I had that much money, then I could donate it to charity, or if I had X more hours in my day, I could start to do something with that. He's saying, don't wait for that. Don't wait for that. Just make yourself useful wherever you are. Shine your light wherever you are. And the message even goes on to say about the small things again, about how the plane, how these great things need something like things that are smaller than them, like the plane needing the wing, etc. Just like us. We do not disregard the small opportunities or the small things that we can do. And if we think of the light of the world, we can think of Jesus. Joanna the Angelus said that Jesus' presence is the light of the world, that the world has not used wisely, she says, choosing instead the shadows. And it's not, we don't have to look too far or too hard or too deep to see that the world in general has chosen the shadows. A lot of the times has chosen the absence of light, aka darkness. But she's saying that Jesus' presence is the light of the world. And Jesus even said, I'm the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. So when we have those teachings really internalized and we can externalize those teachings, we are shining our light. We're shining our own light, illuminating not only our paths, but the paths of others. So still thinking about Jesus, we can even go even further. Joanna says that he was the light of the world. He was a light, a spirit of his magnitude, of his order. If we think about that, he had a lot of light himself, but he chose it very wisely. It's something that I appreciate a lot about like Jesus' actions was his true knowledge, his true understanding that too much light can blind someone, especially if they're coming from darkness, from a place where there was absence of light. Too much light can blind, even if temporarily. That's why he taught through parables. That's why he spoke to them in a language they understood. Because if he was to dump all of the knowledge of his billions of years as a spirit, people would be so overwhelmed, taken aback. Nobody would have heard him or understood him. We're still over 2,000 years later trying to understand a lot of the things that he taught and that he said very simply, but we're still trying to grasp those concepts and utilize and apply those concepts. So can we imagine if he truly shone his light? So this idea of shining our light in with the understanding that too much light can temporarily blind someone as well. But how do we shine our light then? Somebody may say this is very a bit theoretical. It's great, but like how do we shine our light? A couple of ways. One of them is through labor, through our work, through our mission. So question 573 of the Spirits book is going to ask, they're going to ask, in what does the mission of incarnated spirits consist? They're going to say, in instructing men, in aiding their advancement, and in ameliorating their institutions by direct material means. Direct material means. Why material? Because we are still in the plane of existence in our evolutionary state, both are as ourselves and as a society, that we need these material means. We need to still live in a world of flesh, of the material that we can use, of course, as instruments, you know. But the thing is, he's saying that the mission of these incarnate spirits is to instruct men and aid their advancement, which is what? Saying the same thing Emmanuel said before, shining our light to illuminate the path of others. Ought we understand, this is question 675, by labor only occupations of a material nature? No. The spirit labors like the body. Every sort of useful occupation is a labor. So they're saying it's not only the material nature, it's not only because when we think of occupations of being useful, we may sometimes think that it relates only to those things that we get paid for, like our jobs or careers. Saying no, every sort of useful occupation is a labor. If you're lending an ear to someone, a shoulder for someone to cry on, or if you're helping, they're lending a hand, that's a useful occupation that you're not going to get paid for, but that's useful. Those who go to spiritist centers, I like when I give this lecture there, I like to say, somebody wiped the floor here, somebody's paying the electrical bill, somebody put those chairs together, somebody is streaming this lecture itself, and that's their occupation, this useful occupation that they're doing out of love to shine their own light, to shine their light. So it's not only of the material nature. And it says here, the spirit labors like the body. Even when we sleep, a third of our day, we are sleeping. Our spirit is somewhere else, and it's laboring for sure. Through charity is also a way to shine our light. And I put here's an act of love, because it is an act of love. Message number 57 of this book, Harvest of Light, says, God gave you discernment so that your words can guide the understanding of those who hear you, and that your presence, wherever it may be, becomes a light that dispels the shadow of imbalance and the fog of discord. This is Emmanuel saying this again. Wherever it may be, becomes a light that dispels the shadow of imbalance and the fog of discord. So through our words, through our actions, these are ways that we can be charitable, that we can be altruistic, and we can shine our light. To achieve, this is from message number 38, to achieve living faith, the daughter of understanding and love, and it is necessary to serve. And to serve is to make light. To serve is to make light. And that is such, I think that's such a beautiful statement, such a powerful statement for us to really analyze and think about it and internalize that statement. To serve is to make light. So if we're thinking of ways to shine our light, we already have one there, and it's only one word. In this book, a book of messages as well by De Luca. I don't think we have that in English too. It's a small book, some nice messages he wrote. This one is about lights, and it says, the candle cannot be placed under the basket. Take it out of there and put it high, let it shine. The world needs your light, needs you, and we will only be happy when our light is shining. When we are channeling our forces to utilize the talents conceded by God to each one of us. Do not let pain and suffering extinguish your light. Know instead that it is through the shining of your light that you will stop the suffering. He's saying, and I like this part, the world needs your light, it needs you. We are unique. We each of us has had a unique trajectory up until this point. We have accumulated all these debts with ourselves and with the world, but we also have accumulated a lot of talents, a lot of positive characteristics. Even if they seem dormant, they are there. We are unique. And if we think about all these people that persevere and try to use their talents, we can we we can look in every sort of area. We can look in art, for instance, and think of a Mozart, a Beethoven, Da Vinci, all these people that knew what they loved, that had this unique talent, and they utilized that. And their light as an inspiration has shone through so many centuries. Think of Saint Francis as well. I mean, Mother Teresa. We think of Chico Xavier, Divaldo. All these people that shone their lights by using what they have, what they were passionate about, what they loved, what they were talented, what they had talents to do. And it's even saying here, do not let pain and suffering extinguish your light. Yes, do not let us be swayed by these conventional opinions by the crowd's judgments, as Emmanuel referred to. But it is shining our light that we will stop the suffering. And one thing for us to remember too, the one who shines their light is the first to be illuminated. So when we are holding that light, when we are shining the light, like fireflies, we are the first to be illuminated. Our contribution then, if we go to Living Spring, message 154, it's called No One Lives Solely for Himself. He says, the torch you light will illuminate not only the pathway at your own feet, but also the path for those with you. Thousands of eyes watch your footsteps, thousands listen to your voice, and thousands of hearts receive your encouragement to do good or evil. Thousands. He's not saying a handful. He's saying thousands. So the idea here, and even if we don't realize, John always says, even if you don't realize you're an example to someone. Emmanuel is saying thousands of people watch us. Thousands. A lot of the times we think we are alone, but we forget the invisible plane. We forget all the discarnate spirits that are surrounding us based on our own vibration, based on the things that we're saying, the things that we're doing, the things that we're thinking, how we are shining or not, our light. So he's saying like that, your torch will illuminate not only my pathway, our pathway, but the pathway of others. Whether we like it or not, Emmanuel is going to say, the law demands that our lives be connected to the lives of those around us. And this is beautiful. We are all in this connection, and our light is through the shining of our mutual lights that we can illuminate ourselves, others, and the world around us. In the book Happy Life by Joanna, she's going to say that in any group project, all elements are equally important to the expected results. When one person finds balance, she says, harmony appears in the entire group. Even if you do not realize, like I was saying before, you are an example to someone. Someone is watching you, watching your actions, watching what you do. And remember, your light is unique. You are unique. The world needs your uniqueness. It needs your light. And going back to the beginning of our talk when we mentioned darkness as being the absence of light, now we know more about light. We know practical ways of shining our light. We know about the obstacles of shining wherever we are. But we can truly, truly take these teachings and put them into practice through our talents, through our mission, through our time, through everything that we already have in our power, that we have not only as humans, but we have as unique individuals that we have accumulated throughout thousands and thousands of years and multiple reincarnations. We have accumulated all of that, and we can use those things to shine our light, to spread the teachings of Jesus, to be those teachings, to be the example for others, because as we learned with Emmanuel and Joanna, we are always an example to someone, and thousands are watching us. So when we shine our light, we can dissipate, we can cure the absence of light, which is darkness. Through the shining of our light, we can cure the world outside and the world inside of this darkness. And then when we're all shining our lights wherever we are, I like to think that the spirituality is gonna, from the top, look down and see exactly that you see on your screen. All those lights shining. Thank you and have a blessed week. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Yuri, for the reflections you provided. Please stay with us for the Q&A session, but first, here are some announcements. Please join us for the 18th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. It will be held on Saturday, September 21st, 2024, in Boston. The theme is Life Through the Lens of Immortality, Philosophy of Spiritism. Next, Introduction to Mediumship, a free virtual course for beginners. The U.S. Spiritist Federation is thrilled to invite individuals eager to explore the realm of spirit communication according to Spiritism. Check out the new course at learn.spiritist.us, or scan the QR code on the flyer. Third announcement, please check out the podcast-like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, based on the works by Joanna De Angelis. A new episode appears every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, available on YouTube and Spotify. Next, the Spiritist app, Be My Hope, is available on the App Store or Google Play. This app offers uplifting content in a collection of videos, daily messages, and audio materials. Download it now. And finally, on the screen, please note there is a QR code. If you want to help the USSF promote more publications and promote Spiritism to everyone, please scan the QR code on screen for your donation. Okay, so let us begin our Q&A session. Let's see what we have here. From the U.S. Spiritist Federation, what are one or two sources of emotional darkness that people cling to, which prevent them from shining their light, their inner light, from within?
Great question. I think that one or two sources. I think there are many sources, but if we go through to the two that are so talked in the gospel according to Spiritism, selfishness and pride, are two sources of this darkness, of this emotional darkness. Because if we think of them as translating into actions, they prevent us from shining our own light. If we're only thinking about ourselves, or if we think about ourselves as better than others, and we have that arrogance that stems from pride and all of that, we're not going to ask for forgiveness. We're not going to be the example that we need to be in shining our light, which all comes from love. Like we said, darkness is the absence of light. And if we think of, pride and selfishness, we learn about charity as well. We're not going to be charitable. We're not going to be altruistic if we're driven by this emotional darkness that comes from selfishness and pride.
Thank you. I liked how one of the big themes of your lecture is that we are not stuck with our emotional darkness. Okay, next question. How debilitating is depression, and what can people these days do to seek help?
It goes straight into my own my own work, but I'm gonna say it's, if I have to do a blank statement, it is very debilitating. and it's extremely, extremely debilitating. It's something, it's the darkness or the absence, like we said, of hope, of patience, of resilience that can lead to depression if we're thinking of subjective terms. It is very debilitating. And what people can do these days to seek help, honestly, as simple as this sounds, seeking help is a big, big step, because there's still so many people that suffer, and that are so many people go undiagnosed and go untreated because they are afraid, or they have the fear, or they don't want to be judged, to seek help. And by seeking help, we can think of many different things. If we think from a practical clinical way, seeking the help of a psychologist, a therapist. If we're thinking from a more uh, holistic or macro way of seeing things, we can think of spiritism as a way that a lot of people go to and learn and love what spiritism says, because it's the consoler. So it is a way to seek help as well, when we're studying, when we're trying to internalize, like I always say, internalize these messages and externalize them through our actions, our words, and our thoughts.
Actually, I just thought of a quick follow-up question. I remember reading that one of the struggles that people who suffer from mental illness go through is that they are not willing to acknowledge that they have a problem to begin with. Is that really true?
Yes, that is, we call them one of the barriers. That's one of the barriers. It's even the most fundamental barrier is the unawareness that you have a problem, or that you have something that needs to improve. The second is, even if you have that knowledge, you don't want to seek help, because either you're afraid of being judged, or you just don't want to invest in that, because it is a painful process to look inward and see what we can change, and bring that responsibility to ourselves. A lot of people go undiagnosed or go untreated because of that second level barrier.
So even though it can be a catch-22, at the same time, there are lots of resources out there for seeking help.
There had never been, Peter, more resources than
That's
in this day and age, where we have technology to aid us in that.
right. Important point to remember. Okay, next question from Daniel Santos. Hi, Daniel. What is your suggestion for those who have tried everything but continue to live in the darkness of life?
Great question. Very subjective, and I like that Daniel. Hi, Daniel. He put everything in quotation. uh, yes, for those who have tried everything, I'd say either try again or try differently, because a lot of the times when we say we tried, if we're being really honest with ourselves, we look inward. Did we really try? Did we really put ourselves in a position that we could be helped, or that we can ask for help? And in my work, I often see that people coming to do therapy, but they really don't want to take that extra step. They think that just doing 80% of it is trying their best, but they can do more. They can commit more. So that's why I say I love that you put everything, because I also agree with the quotation there for everything, but continue to live in the darkness of life. But so I said, try it again, try better, but also look for other ways, because there's not only one path to shine our lights and to disperse the darkness. So maybe in this theoretical example that you're giving, Daniel, maybe this person can try something else. And this is a lot of ways that we come to spiritism. A lot of people come through either love or pain. So they have tried a lot of these different things, a lot of different avenues to disperse their darkness, but they can't, and they find spiritism, and then spiritism helps them disperse the darkness. So either try again, try better, or try something else.
Do you find in your work that sometimes you try to point out what somebody can do to help themselves, and they give you lots of reasons for why it won't work
Every day.
every day?
Every day, because they already come and they know themselves better than we as professionals know them. But the idea is, when we looked at a problem where it's like I say, you're in the eye of the hurricane, I'm looking from the outside, so I'm seeing things you can't see. And in this way, like if you put yourselves in the perspective, you can see how it's hard to see if you're inside the eye of the hurricane. But at the same time, they already come with all these sometimes answers, and all these things that are truly ways that things have not worked, and it's up to for them to be open to trying different things.
So that really underscores Daniel's point about everything in quotes.
Everything, exactly.
Okay, next question. Thank you. From the International Spiritist Council, Yuri, can you elaborate on the ways in which taking that first or second step in a new direction can increase our positive emotional life?
Excellent. Yes. A step in the new direction already in itself, the novelty of that itself, one can bring hope, because as we were just talking, sometimes people have tried 99 different methods and they can't, and they tried the 100th, and that's the one that clicks for them. That's the one that helps them. So having this first or second step in a new direction, the novelty itself can already be very beneficial. And if we're thinking even further about, increasing our positive emotional life, increasing the light that we all shine, that we all have to shine, when we're going in a new direction, we are already granting ourselves with new opportunities. So let's say I'm somebody that never forgave. I'm very harsh on people, but then I say, no, I'm gonna really try to forgive this person, take their place, and forgive this person for whatever that it is that they did. Or if I'm the one that never asked for forgiveness, let me ask for forgiveness this time. Just by doing that, the step in the right direction, even if it seems small, it's a first step or a second step, that in itself can already help us get out of this inertia, get out of this idea of feeling stuck with the darkness inside.
Thank you. Those are good points. Okay, next question from the U.S. Spiritist Federation. If selfishness and pride are huge obstacles to our spiritual progress, as stated in part 3 of the Spirit's book, what about the emotion of fear? How much is fear related to humility? I think in some ways you were touching on that.
Hmm. I mean, I think there are many answers to that, but the one I am thinking of related to what I brought is the idea of, like I said, the conventional opinions that Emmanuel talked about. So this emotion of fear driving us away from humility, because I'm afraid of what people are going to think. Emmanuel says, if you truly forgive someone, you're considered a fool. So if I am trying to be humble, if I'm trying to ask for forgiveness, if I'm trying to forgive someone, I am considered a fool. I'm considered mad if I take things that suffer with patience. All these things, all these fears of judgment, and nowadays even that we're so attached as a society to these materialistic things, to likes on a page, to followers, to all these things that make us very materialistic. Those lights that I mentioned, those fake lights that I mentioned, nowadays that fear I think is amplified, because now if I say something wrong, it's not only the people around me that are going to know. If I said it online, it can be seen by millions of people, and then that amplifies that fear. And it in on the other hand, it may become harder for me to be humble.
Thank you. Okay, another question from the International Spiritist Council. Should we worry or feel guilty if we are not sure if our own source of light is really enough?
I can think of many ways that an answer to this can go, but I want to say that our light is enough. We are enough. We have enough in our hands to change not only ourselves but those around us for better, if we truly truly try. We have all these tools available to us. We have the help of invisible benefactors even to help us that. So the worry that it's mentioned there, the guilt and the worry, those are again obstacles for us to shine our light. And even the idea that it may not be enough is already an impediment to shining our own light. So my answer to that is I'm flipping it from a more optimistic way and saying your source of light is enough. Just shine whatever you are, and shine and be yourself, and your source of light is already enough.
Chances are we have more within us at the moment than we think we do.
Than we think we do, or then we actually put out there.
Okay. Alrighty. So we have also a question from Fabiola Mello. Morning. Could you make a link about shine your light and do not let your light be darkness?
So I think the idea here, the contrast with the shining our light or your light, and not let your light be darkness. I think the idea again with darkness being the absence of light. There's two things that come to my mind. One is the idea that we don't, if we're truly shining our light through the teachings of Christ, that's going to be what we need to illuminate ourselves in the path of others. Like I said many times, to dissipate the darkness that we have inside through all those absences that we mentioned, and also the darkness outside. And remembering too that if we shine too much light in someone's eye, like I was saying, that Jesus was so good in his understanding of shining the necessary amount of light, not to blind. If we shine too much light and we blind someone, they're back in darkness. So the shining our light with this understanding that those who are coming from a dark place, that those are coming from darkness, we cannot come with an extremely potent light to illuminate, otherwise they may be blind. And we can even apply that to knowledge.
Thank you. That's a good point. Okay. And this is another question from Benefer Romantico. Did you know your past life when you study Spiritism? Okay, so I think this is a question about, do we know what our past life is as we study Spiritism? Is this something we should focus on, or do we focus on?
So for like I said, a blank answer, I guess, is no, not necessarily like the details, and that's only shown to us when we need it. We need that information. But as I've said in a previous lecture here, we don't need to know all the details of our past lives. We don't need to start studying spiritism to understand our past lives. If we have the idea that we are mortal beings, we have had multiple reincarnations, aka multiple lives, the way we are right now and where we are right now, or can already tell us a lot about the people we must help and get help from, and the people that we may have been indebted to due to things we did in other lives, and our talents, our inclinations, our dark side, even all the things that we're still trying to improve on, and the things that we have already improved on, and we can shine our light. So I'd say we don't need the details for that. We actually have enough in our hands right now, enough light in our hands, enough knowledge in our hands, if we look around, to be able to make the difference.
Also, I was just thinking, can you elaborate a little bit on what Spiritism says about the problem of knowing our entire history from before?
The same idea that too much light can blind. We would be blinded by that knowledge, and that would for sure interfere with our way to progress things forward. If we knew exactly the people around us, if our past with them, if we knew our own past, our own dark past, how can we progress? It becomes even harder if you know that the person next to you was the person that killed you in real life, or the person next to you killed that person in real life. The guilt could be so overwhelming, or the anger could be so overwhelming by remembering all those things, that we have this amazing mechanism of forgetfulness, temporary forgetfulness, that we don't know what happened exactly, but we're in this position with these people that we must evolve together with, that we must learn to love sometimes. We may learn to forgive through this existence, in this existence.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's a big subject, isn't it? Very important.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I believe that's it for the questions. Yes. Okay, so thank you, Yuri, for your thoughts and your reflections, and thank you everyone who joined us for this today's talk. We appreciate everyone who follows our weekly series. Next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, don't miss our next live when Daniel Assisi will be discussing the mathematics of love through reincarnation. Yuri, before we close this live, can you do a prayer for us?
Sure. So I invite everyone to close their eyes, to sit themselves comfortably, and to bring our thoughts in unison and in one unique way to our God, to Jesus, our Master, to the spiritual benefactors that are always with us, that have granted us this opportunity with this time here, this technology for us to learn more about shining our light, how we can shine our light and disperse the darkness inside and outside. Let us thank all the spirits, everybody that helped us and continues to help us, and may we be inspired and instructed by these teachings of the Consoler and make changes for better. So be it.